Please welcome Andrew Ross Sorkin and his guest, 23-time Grand Slam champion and managing partner of Serena Ventures, Serena Williams.
The GOAT is here, everybody. You can stand for her if you want, actually, because I would stand for you. I would stand for the GOAT any day. Serena Williams is here, everybody, and we could not be more thrilled to have her here today. You all know her. I don't even need to give her an introduction. She is just a powerhouse in tennis, one of the most iconic athletes of all time. Winner, I should say, 23 Grand Slams, 4 gold medals, known for her fierce competitive spirit. I want to get into that with you.
Thank you, yeah.
And she is now an author, an entrepreneur, a venture capitalist. She is the mother of 2. She's a TikToker. We were just making a TikTok
See, gotta stay up
backstage.
on the times.
We'll talk about that as well. But what I really wanted to do more than anything, and we got to spend some time together in Paris during the Olympics this summer, is try to understand your competitive spirit, honestly, and where your confidence comes from. Because I think that all of us, we want to be confident.
Right.
We want to be
be
competitive.
too,
we want all of that.
Yeah.
And yet the truth is, at least I'll say it for myself, I think we all in our own way are a little insecure. Right? And we don't all understand where our station is in life, and we also don't know whether we can always make it. And I would watch you on the court in these moments where all of a sudden you would have this confidence. And I'm not saying it was unfounded, because clearly it was founded, but where it came from, because where you think that germ of confidence
sometimes you have to fake it. And even in business, you kind of have to fake it, because not every day I would walk out there, not every day I would feel good. And there's some days as an athlete, you know, I think every athlete, you're never playing at 100%. But it's like tennis is one-on-one, and you have to look, and you walk to the net, and you are looking your opponent in your eye, and you're like, okay, what's wrong with her today, or what's going on? There's something, is she injured, what's this? So you really have to just have this space of like, no, I'm confident, I'm perfect, and I've never been healthier. And so, and that was literally never the story and never the case. And some days you just don't feel like showing up, but you have to show up. And so, and sometimes that confidence permeates through you, and somehow you just start to feel that way, and then you start to play better. But that's one thing that I've learned. Not every day you show up great, you know, but you show up and you still perform. And if you win, great. And if you don't win, that's okay, because you show up for another day.
But I remember asking you about loss. You said, I don't like to talk about losing.
I know. I mean, you're bringing this up again.
No. What I
we
remember about when we were talking about losing, and it was almost like we couldn't talk about it.
Yeah.
And that I think actually the loss for you, I don't want to project onto you, actually creates some kind of drive in you that's just different. I want to read you something. This is Renee Stubbs, who was your coach many, many years ago. She said, I think there was no one who held a grudge for revenge more than Serena Williams, which was one of the reasons that she was so great, because she was never into complacency. It was always about, it's never going to happen again.
Yeah. But that again, that is just across everything that I do. So obviously that was my big thing in tennis. Like, I never wanted to lose. But unfortunately, I think when you do lose, you learn some of your biggest lessons. And every loss that I had, I kind of needed that to actually become Serena Williams, or I would have never been this person had I not taken some of those really, really hard falls, and some losses that quite frankly sucked.
So what happens though for you? What's the lesson of that? I mean, are you sitting around moping? Are you thinking about it?
I'm a moper. I definitely mope for a little bit. But then I do something about it. I go back. When I first started, I used to punish myself, and I would say, if I lose, I'm watching the film. And that was very hard, and that was very difficult to go back and to watch the footage of why I lost. But it also helped me, though, because it was like, A, I never wanted to watch that footage again, and B, you have to see why you didn't win. Like with investing, if I do something wrong, and I tell my team all the time, like, if this didn't go well, why didn't it go well? What did we like about it? What can we learn from this? And so bringing that tennis aspect across the board, just like in tennis, I would say, why did I lose, and how to not do that again?
So that's after the match is over.
Yes.
I'm curious about what happens when you're on the court, because there are some times where I have seen two things happen. One time you could be down 5-2 and you could say, you know what, I'm playing through. I am going to fight like hell to win this set, right? I'm down and I'm going to fight. But then there's other times, and you've seen, and you probably had your own experience this way, where sometimes, you know what, I'm going to let this set go.
Yeah.
I'm just going to let it go. I got to start fresh all over again at the next set.
I've never said that. No, never, not one day in my life. But I tell you, I have to say, if I were playing tennis if I were a guy and I was playing in the men's tour, I think there is more opportunity because they play more sets. So it makes sense for them to say that. And it's actually more strategically, it makes a lot of sense. But for women, we only play the best 2 out of 3 sets, so we physically can't do that, or else it's very difficult to come back from that. So for me, in tennis, it's never over. It's never over until you're shaking the hand. And sometimes, even when I'm shaking my opponent's hand, I'm like, is it really over? What happened? No. So you never give up. And it's so cliche. It's something that I grew up with my father telling me, never give up, never give up. But it's like you just don't. You don't stop. You keep going, and then you go some more. And you give it your all for that moment that you can give.
I got a different one for you, which is you have a very unusual situation. It's a fabulous situation in that you have this amazing sister named Venus. And you have had to compete against her for your whole career.
Yeah.
And I was thinking about that because I think there's a lot of folks here who have peers and friends that they compete with. It often feels, if you will, like a zero-sum game. Right?
Yeah.
You know, someone's going to win, somebody's going to lose. That's just the way it's going to be.
Yeah.
And you live in the house with this other person.
And there was no separation at all. So
how did you guys deal with that? How did you think about that? And to the extent there's a lesson for all of us.
Dealt with it. Looking back, I don't know. I think, we were so close. We grew up so close, and my family was like, no fighting. You girls are always going to be sisters, and this is that, and that's it. No other option. But my sister and I, we actually lived together until I got married, which wasn't that long ago. So we just always lived together. And I think in the end that actually helped our relationship because we had to figure out a way to work it out. We had to communicate. We had to have those difficult conversations, which I find out now is sometimes you have to be comfortable having difficult and uncomfortable conversations. And so I feel like we just, without even realizing it, we just leaned into that. As long as I was winning.
But that's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
No, but that's what I was going to say.
Clear, as long as I was winning.
How does she feel?
She's
because
I was good.
One of your old coach, Rick Mackey, said 100%, if there was no Serena, who knows, Venus could be sitting here with 15, 20 Grand Slams.
Absolutely. I mean, she would. I think that's about the times we played each other in the finals. Or not to mention semifinals or quarterfinals or et cetera. We had this rule, like if we played each other before the finals, we had to go ahead and win the tournament. Because it was like, if we had to beat each other, we had to go ahead and win the tournament. But yeah, I think Venus would have definitely had at minimum 15, maybe more, if she didn't have to.
So does she feel as sanguine about the situation as you?
Well, I feel like if I didn't have her, I would have minimum 30. So I'm kind of salty about her winning all those finals against me.
We all know a lot about your father and the role that he played in your life. King Richard was an extraordinary movie. I'm actually curious about your mother.
Yeah.
Because she doesn't get a lot of attention in this whole storyline.
And she doesn't want it. She does. She's like the most...
What was the role that she played in this whole situation?
I say that if you have to take a human body, my dad was the body and my mom was the spine. And I think there's no better way to describe it. That's how important and integral she was into us, to our family, to my career. She really, particularly with me, she worked on my mental toughness more than anything else because I was demoted to her court all the time and I hated it. And my dad always worked with Venus, but under my mom's tutelage, I was able to just really become this beast. She's so mentally fortified in her head, and so she was able to give that to me, and I'm really grateful for it.
Do you think I mean, this is another question that we all wonder about just for ourselves, and you have children. Do you think you were born with it? Or do you think that your parents and the training created this?
I think it's definitely a little nurture, and I think there's also something that's innate. I was born to win, and it's funny.
You were born to win?
Yes. No, let me explain. It's funny because we used to have these talent shows, and my family was just together over the holidays, and we were talking about it. And if I didn't win the talent show, I would go nuts. I would cry. I would throw a fit. You thought I was bad on the court. You should have saw me at these talent shows. So it was just, it was innate for me to always have this drive to be the best and to be and to win. Of course, I wasn't the best. Incidentally, we stopped the talent shows because they got tired of me having to win all the time. So that part was innate. Right. And Venus always says she didn't have that part. And she learned that after watching me win my first championship. She learned that she could do that by getting that fight. So she actually ended up getting what I had, but she had to learn it. So I think you can get it both ways. Right. And I think it's good that if you don't have something, you can still develop it later on by working on it.
You know, I was rewatching King Richard, and I was just curious, when you look back, he was tough. I mean, he also seemed like he was tough on you guys, too. Do you feel that?
No. My dad actually my mom was way tougher than my dad. Oh my gosh, yes. So my dad was actually super kind and always saying, "Are you okay? Do you need to take time off? Let's take a break."
Oh, see, the movie makes it out like he's pushing you guys.
He was obviously pushing us,
right?
But he was also one of those few tennis parents or athlete parents who really put his daughters first. And it put his daughter's health first, which is why I think is the only reason we were able to play for 20 plus years professional tennis.
Okay, I got to ask you, maybe a sensitive question, but because I just watched the movie again. Did you ever talk to Will Smith after the big moment?
Oh yeah. You know, I have my faults, and I've had some public moments where they weren't my finest moments, and so I understand that sometimes you don't make your best decisions. And so, yeah, I have.
Well, what were you thinking that night? You must have thought something.
I was actually backstage, and I thought, oh my God, I got to get back and see what's happening here. And so I ran back to my seat as fast as I could to, get the juicy
get the play-by-play.
details. I was like, wait, how did I miss this?
Were you upset though?
Listen, I was at the Oscars. You know, I grew up wanting to win Wimbledon, and now the movie that we produced is at the Oscars. So I was just like, it was all in the moment as well. And so it was just like, this was such a cool moment for us. Like, how many athletes have an opportunity to be nominated for an Oscar? So, I always look at the glass as half full.
Tell me about this, if you will. You now have kids. Coaching them, I was reading that you try not to coach them. You actually have your father coach them. Is that right?
I'm a terrible coach. I'm the kind of person that's like, just do it. It's like this. Why can't you do it? Just do it. And that's literally how I coach. My daughter, she's like, how do I just serve? Serve. Yeah. And I'm not kidding. So yeah, my Venus is an amazing coach, but I'm like, okay, it's either Venus or my dad, because I'm more of a mental coach.
It's sometimes easier when it's not the parent. That's
Yes.
why I think it's so impressive that your parents were able to do it and you went along with it.
Yes, but I don't know how my parents did it, to be perfectly honest, because I literally can tell you from experience, I cannot do it.
Okay, so I want to pivot to your new life as a venture capitalist and all the other work that you're doing. But you started Serena Ventures, we should tell everybody, while you were still playing. I mean, this was not something...
I call it famous because we all know this story internally, but there's a time where I was literally at Wimbledon walking out to center court, and I was talking to my partner at the time saying, we got to close this deal. Like, I really like this investment.
What was the deal?
I don't remember. I just remember the moment, and I remember I shouldn't be doing this. And she was saying, can you please get off the phone? And then she didn't realize I was walking out to the court, because afterwards she was like, wait, are you kidding me? because she was watching, she happened to be watching Wimbledon, she saw that I had walked out, and so, no. So I started Serena Ventures, oh my gosh, 7, 8 years ago now, with just an idea to expand, investing and expand what people look like that we're investing in. And in order to do that, I think it's super important to expand who's writing the checks. And that way we can get more diversity in who's actually getting the funding.
Okay, so best investment, worst investment so far?
Best investment?
Best investment, worst investment?
I can't say best because we have so many that we're so proud of. We have a unicorn in our fund already. Our fund is only a couple years old. We also have another one that is doing, a couple that are doing really, really well that I'm excited about. And it's actually solving great problems for moms and for the environment as well. And also, I think worst is probably my very first investment. I started investing over 15 years ago now, and I invested in this one deal because this guy was doing it and this celebrity was doing it, and I didn't even know what the word due diligence meant. And I was like, well, I must do it, and it's gonna be really cool, and it wasn't cool at all. And that's another company I can't remember the name of, but I'm going to have to find out what was the name of that company.
Lucky,
but it doesn't
lucky
exist.
That you can't remember it.
Yeah, but I learned a lot from that, a lot.
One of the fun ones that I noticed is on your list. You are an investing partner with Michael Jordan in tequila. Does he just call you up? How does that happen?
Well, we're goats, we have each other's number.
Well, that's what I didn't know.
So, listen, I don't care who you are. When Michael Jordan calls you, you just still get excited about it, and so I still super get excited about it. So yes, his wife called me and was like, she really wanted to have, another woman there, another big woman investor, and she knows that I invest. We don't particularly do that. It's just personal investment, actually. So, you can't say no to Michael Jordan.
Can't say no to Michael Jordan. Sports teams. You've got stakes in some sports teams.
Yes, I actually was one of the earlier owners. Well, I hate the word celebrity because I consider myself just a normal person and just a person that loves investing. But I invested in the Dolphins over 15 years ago now. So actually, that was probably one of
that may be one of the best investments so far.
Yeah, especially now with everything that's happening down in Miami. So yeah, I always thought that sport had something that was always going to be authentic.
Right.
And now everything that's happening, whether it's through technology and through social, that sport is the one thing and that's why sport continues to do well. It's the one thing that is always going to be genuine and authentic, and you can't beat these sports moments. And so I always had that thesis in my mind, and that's one of the reasons why I wanted to get into the Dolphins.
But tell us about a couple other things. You got golf going on now. You've got soccer.
That's my husband.
That's your husband doing
That's
this.
my husband, yeah.
So how much
He's using my name.
He's using your name.
I'm kidding.
How much of the things you got, actually, but that's a good question. How much of the businesses do you invest in together?
So we don't do a ton of stuff together. We keep our business very church and state. And obviously, Alexis is an incredible investor, and I do go to him
Founder
from
of Reddit.
time to time. Founder of Reddit. 776 is doing amazing.
Are you a Bitcoiner? He's a big Bitcoiner, right?
He's a big Bitcoiner, but he knew about it. I didn't know about. I wasn't into the crypto. I wasn't into coin. I didn't understand all that stuff when it was back in 2012. I was focusing on other stuff, but he obviously knew that. So, but he's a wonderful investor. We keep our things very separate. Yeah.
What do you think about women's sports, which are clearly having a moment? The evaluations are going up. The viewership is coming on strong. The networks are starting to pay for it. Where are we? And is this the beginning of something, or is there a little bit of a bubble happening?
So I always say that women's sports is not having a moment. It's always been there. We women athletes have always been around. We've always been amazing, and we've always been great. You guys are just noticing. And I think it's important that people realize that, because Venus and I have been around forever, and we've had the most viewers ever at the U.S. Open and every single Grand Slam of any kind of female, any women athlete ever. But it's also the fact that there's other amazing athletes have been doing so well for so long, but now other people are noticing how great they are, and now they're investing in them. And when you invest in women, just like what we do at Serena Ventures, you really see what product you get. There's so much great potential out there. And so people are just realizing that.
What do you think about the pay piece? You've talked about pay equality for a long time.
Yeah.
But I'm so curious because I think about the NBA and I think about the WNBA. And I look and I think, the WNBA has $200 million in annual revenue. The NBA has $10 billion. And so it becomes complicated very quickly in terms of how that pay should get distributed.
I think you're opening a massive can of worms that I could talk forever about. And I think that's the one thing, because the NBA is so entrenched in the WNBA. And so now that the W is doing a lot better, they're saying, there's a lot that I don't even know if I should be talking about.
Bring it up, bring it.
Quite frankly, it's a lot. So I can see both sides of the story, because as a woman athlete, I know that side, but also as an owner, I know the other side. And so I definitely can see how there is a little disagreement, but I see how each side has a point of view. Right. It's a lot of stuff that needs to be solved, but I want to just make sure I don't say the wrong thing.
Do you want to own a WNBA team?
TBD. Stay tuned.
Watch this space. Maybe that's why she's holding her tongue. Let me ask you actually about holding your tongue on a different topic. We're just after an election. Bill Clinton's going to be on with us next after you. And I know that you don't like to talk about your political views one way or the other. But I was reading, this is a 2018 interview you gave to Harper's Bazaar. You said, "I'm not a politician, I'm an athlete." You share a lot about yourself, about your family, all sorts of things. And I'm curious why you don't like to talk about politics and what you think of other athletes that do. So LeBron James, this last election, all sorts of GOATs and others come to the fore with political perspectives. And you have decided not to.
Yeah. That is how I grew up. I also grew up a very religious individual, so my beliefs are completely separate to what is being presented to us as options. And that's kind of how I will always keep it. And I feel like if you make an impact in everyday lives, then that really makes the biggest difference. And so, of course, since I'm such a professional at this, if I talk about an investment that we invested in, there's this amazing company called Rebel Stork who's really solving lots of problems in terms of helping parents, whether they're moms or dads, and they're helping environmental issues. That is what's making a real impact. And I think if you show up every day in your life by doing small things, that makes such a great impact. And that's who I am, and that's who I will always be. I applaud the athletes and the people that do want to be political. I think they have every right to do that. And I think it's important for them to do what makes them happy. But I also think it's super important for me to do what makes me happy, and that's more or less just showing up every day. Not that they don't. I do believe everyone shows up every day, but just show up the best that I can every day to make an impact, whether that's through social media, whether that's through talking to young girls, whether that's talking to young men. Whatever that is, I think my impact is the best that I can do locally or nationally.
What's the distinction between talking about politics and causes? So the other thing, you supported Colin Kaepernick. There's been people.
Did I?
I think you did. Did you not?
There's a lot of things.
I read something that said you did.
Yeah, there's a lot of things that are inflated. You're in the media. Are you saying that nothing is inflated?
Not my own work, but hopefully.
Listen, I think Colin, obviously, I think what he did, I don't know if I could have done. And I don't know, a lot of people couldn't have done what he did. And to do that is remarkable. And he was such a brave individual, and I will always support that bravery that he had and that he continues to show every day of his life. I think you have to be so strong to do that. Am I that strong? I don't know. I think there is lots of situations that I've showed up in where I have had to be incredibly powerful, but I think he's done an amazing job. Right. But I just stay out of it. You know what? I mind my own business.
Okay, talking about minding your own business, this is just a total selfish curiosity because we were did a little TikTok in the back there before. How much do you read about yourself or watch these things? I mean, there's stuff coming every day. I mean, by the way, I did a Google News alert for you for the last month and a half because I knew I was going to see you. So I was every day bombarded.
You were prepping me, huh?
Well, I was trying to, I wanted to make sure that I knew what was going on.
So I was in the public eye since I was 12. And I became really in the public eye at 17 when I won my first Grand Slam. And from that day of me winning my first Grand Slam until today, I made a stance and I said, I'm not going to read any articles about me. I'm not going to read any press. When I watch film or when I watch tennis, I always have it on mute.
Really?
Yes, because growing up before mental health was a thing, it was only negative stuff about, me. I look like a man. I'm too strong. I can't be that good. I must be taking drugs or whatever it is. And so, or she's the best in the world. She does this. It can either inflate you or it can really bring you down. And so I decided to, before mental health was a thing, just to take care of my own mental health and just take a giant step from that. There are obviously times when you're on social media, you might see some comments and it's just like, I hate it when I'm like, oh, why did I read that? Turn it off. But I have really mastered the art of staying in my own bubble, staying in my own space, allowing people to have an opinion, right, because everyone can do that and I shouldn't be upset about someone having their own opinion. And then just focusing on myself, focusing on my family, focusing on what I do, focusing on showing up every day the best that I can, knowing that every day is not going to be great, and just doing that. And I have really, even friends that I have, I don't read articles about them. I make sure because I stay in a positive space because it's a lot of negativity out there, but there's also a lot of positive things out there that can make you feel untouchable. And I never want to be untouchable. I always want to be relatable. I always want to be just real. And so I've decided since a very young age, to just stay in that space.
Which may be a nice segue to this, and might be the way we're going to close this conversation. You wrote on X recently, you said, I don't know who needs to hear this, maybe no one, but if someone, even someone close to you, is robbing you of your joy, it's okay to walk away. Mm-hmm. What was going on when you wrote that?
A lot of people ask me that. I'm like, nothing. I just feel like on X, I always try to, not always, but sometimes I try to write a little motivational piece. And I feel like sometimes people can try to take away your joy, and it might be subconscious. They might tell you something that you just don't need to hear on that day. It's okay to walk away. And it's okay to be strong and say, I don't need that energy. I don't need to hear this. But what I do need to do is just keep myself up, keep myself positive, and just keep moving forward. And so that's what I just try to do, just tell people that, listen, if someone's taking your joy, don't let them take it.
Serena Williams, everybody, thank you for bringing us some joy.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, everybody. Thank you.